Hi, I'm Jose, and this is Token Theater Friends. Welcome. This is our first episode without Deep. Hi, Deep. We miss you, and we hope you're watching and listening. I'm very excited today, though, because we have, the people behind one of my favorite shows running right now, and I think one of my favorite shows of this year, 1 and 2, and we have Playwright Donja R and actor Leland Fowler. Thank you both so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
This is an honor.
I'm so excited to have you.
Yes.
And just to get started for our viewers and our listeners, can you describe what 1 and 2 is?
Can I describe what 1 and 2 is? That's the question. 1 and 2 is a theatrical experience where we explore and we highlight and we get to follow what it looks like today to be HIV positive, specifically to be Black, queer, and HIV positive. And we do it through the lens of a multitude of characters told by 3 amazing actors and getting to see on any given night what that might look like.
I was so astounded, as an audience member, I was astounded by the work that you and your fellow actors do on stage, because you don't know what's going to happen on any single night.
Yes.
So can you explain a little bit about what that's like?
And I'm sorry for that.
No, don't be. I mean, it's so exciting, and so, it's what I love about it is that we can't predict it. So it's like we come in every day and we don't know until the audience knows how the show's gonna go that night. And so it's like we show up and we just we know the story and we know that we are the bodies that tell the story, but it's just like when the show begins, depending on how the audience feels that night, like the audience chooses who they want to be number 1, and then there's a game that decides randomly who's going to be number 2 and number 3, and it's just like we figure that out and then we just roll with it. And so we got to be very present and just play with each other. And I mean, that's an actor's dream. Literally, there's nothing to apologize for because I love it. I've never done anything like that before, where it's just you just are encouraged to just be in the moment and be with the people that you're partnering with on the stage.
I got the impression when I was sitting there that it's kind of like a board game where, you're about to roll the dice and you don't know what's going to happen. Yeah. And I was terrified for all of you there because I'm like, oh God, what if, because I don't know. But for you, you're in the show. Mm-hmm. And what is it like for you? Are there tracks where you go I wish, I hope I'm number 2 today, or I hope I'm number 1?
Well, that's a really good question.
That is a really good question. And I don't feel that way. I actually love all 3 of the tracks. And I'm not even just saying that. But before we started rehearsing, I was like, which one am I going to like the most? But then after we started rehearsing, you try each of them on. I love each of them for very different reasons because they're all such different tracks. Without giving too much away, it was just number 1 for me, the way I describe each of the ones is number 1 takes on the weight of that story and the sadness of the story and also the joy of it, but just the weight of that experience, number 1 has to sit in. Number 2 is a very busy track. You're just the busybody of the show that night. And then number 3 is kind of the soft and relaxed track a little bit. I get to it's if I'm playing number 3 today, it's just okay, I get to breathe a little bit. Y'all got to do the heavy lifting and I'm gonna breathe. But it is a little bit like that.
Yeah. And I will say, when I was writing it, I was thinking that I would love for there to be a track where they get to breathe a little bit.
Yes.
I'm glad that you said that.
Yeah, it is.
And
Number 3.
Number 3, you get to breathe just a little bit. And just really quickly, I just want to talk about the testament to you and Jamil Dubson, one of the other actors, and Eddie Madere, another actor, and the genius of our director, Stevie Walker-Webb. The last time that Eddie, one of the actors, was number 2 was, I think, maybe the 2nd or 3rd preview. Mm-hmm. And then fast forward to about 2 nights ago, he was number 2 again. And I'm in the audience nervous as fuck, oh my God, what's gonna happen? Is the blocking gonna go out the window? Yeah. Are my lines gonna go out the window? And it was amazing. You would not think that 2.5 weeks went by. And it's just, again, a testament to the work that y'all do and how committed y'all all to the material and like the work that y'all continue to put in, and just what Stevie was able to like cultivate throughout the process, because you wouldn't have thought that 2.5 weeks went by from him to be in track 2.
I wonder if, one of the reasons why he was so comfortable with this is because when I was reading your script, and before I even opened it, I thought this is going to be like calculus. I'm not going to understand what's going on here. But what I found so remarkable is that I've been listening to a lot of Prince, and reading your script, there's like, it made me think a lot about Prince's music. There's like all these layers, and it's almost like, I mean, granted, I had already seen the play before I read it, but I was astounded by the fact that it's almost like you're composing a symphony with your words, and I wonder if this makes it easier for your actors to memorize them and, to just feel like they come out of them naturally. But I have to ask you, like, how do you come up with all of that, and how do you write it?
Gosh, that's a really good question, and for me, it was, I like often talk about making room for the divine to show up, and that was incredibly important for me. And I think about when we get to the moment where the audience decides who will be number one, there is no other way to explain it, but like we literally have to make room for the divine to show up. We can be as prepared as possible. We can be as structured as possible and have immense craft and technique. But at the end of the day, in that moment, we have no choice but to, as much as we prepare, to leave room for the divine. And in the text itself, like that was very important for me. And for me, that looked like really thinking about what, when I started writing it, what the last 10 years was like for me living with HIV, and just wanting to be honest about that experience and how can I best convey that in a way where if we have 3 bodies on stage, I was thinking how can we show that any one of these bodies can be HIV positive. And so I just was thinking about like how can the form best show that, and thinking about the only way that I could think of doing that was involving the audience, and then thinking about if the audience is a reflection of society, if for me the audience is a reflection of stigma, then this is how any one of these 3 bodies can be the track with HIV.
There's a moment in the play where the characters mention Angels in America and The Normal Heart. And, those are the plays that everyone thinks about when they're thinking about men and HIV. And I was so grateful to be seeing 1 and 2 because, you know what? Those plays were of its time and they did what they were supposed to do 20, 30 years ago. But they cannot be the only stories that we keep telling. They cannot be the only stories that producers keep bringing back. So even if this is very obvious probably and it sounds a little bit redundant, but why was it so important for you to tell this story from such a specific and personal perspective, and also why did you want to be a part of it?
The personal side of it is like I believe in like writing what you know, and this is an experience that I know all too well, and if I can write this experience from a very personal place, it is my hope that individuals who also exist on this intersection or any one of these 3 lived experiences can be able to also see themselves reflected. And it's that thing of when you get specific, it becomes universal. And so other individuals, I would hope, who may not identify with any of these identities can also feel something as well. So like that was really important for me. And then also like in a very like honest way, it was a form of self-care for me to be able to just like navigate through what my trauma was, what my trauma still is. So like all of that like came to mind. And when I think about The Normal Heart, and when I think about Angels in America, I'm gonna keep it 100% real. I believe that if there were individuals in those plays who looked like me, that maybe I and so many other individuals who look like me wouldn't be HIV positive. Because we had a chance to see ourselves, we would have had a chance to see ourselves reflected in a multitude of ways. I've been just really thinking about quite often like what the programming has been, what the marketing has been, what the campaigns have been over the years, where when you would look at photos, when you would look at videos, and all you would see were white, gay, or bisexual men as related to, at the time, HIV and AIDS prevention. And what that did, and what that still does, is that it sends this message to white, gay, and bisexual men of, oh, I need to wrap it up. I need to truly practice safe sex. And subconsciously, what it does for individuals who are queer and of color is you don't see yourselves in these images. And so you don't think that you have anything to worry about. And so that's why we have the statistics of 1 in every 11 white, gay, and bisexual men will be diagnosed with HIV. 1 in 4 Latino men who are gay and bisexual will be diagnosed. And what the play talks about, 1 in 2 Black, gay, and bisexual men will be diagnosed with HIV. And I know this is a mouthful to say, but I do believe a part of that is because of the programming that has gone on for so many years, like Not For Me, not seeing a body like mine reflected in these amazing plays like The Normal Heart and Angels in America.
And I said this to Donja before, but when I read this play for the first time, it literally made my bones vibrate. I had never experienced something so brave, so vulnerable, that I could connect to, because it came from someone who moves through the world similarly to how I move through the world. And so I am honored, or like, it's just like we talked about the way you talked about how it reminds you of a Prince song, just the way that it like operates on different levels. And like there are so many things in this play that speak directly to my experience growing up in America, that Donja has bravely put up on the stage in a way that is unmasked, in a way that I've not seen before. So it's like I don't have to do a bunch of shape-shifting to see my story reflected back to me. And like the reason why I'm an artist is because I realize how powerful it is when you see a moment of possibility for yourself reflected through art. Like that's what has invigorated me and gotten me through so many things in life. And so to be able to have the space to do that, hopefully for someone, is like, it's my legitimate honor.
I love that you brought that up, because like when I was going through your resume and your credits, it's like a bunch of Shakespeare, and then we have like a Dominique Morisseau play, and then we have Shakespeare, and then we have a Pretty Hurts, and then Shakespeare.
Come through, resume.
And you know, Shakespeare's always like the go-to for everyone who wants to just put on a show, and people keep talking about colorblind casting, and the show, you know, in plays like Wanting To and The Skeleton Crew and in Pretty Hurts, for instance, it's not colorblind, it's color conscious. And for you as an actor, what is it like to get, you know, a script for Measure for Measure and then get a script like Wanting To?
Yeah, I mean, it's when I love Shakespeare, I do, and I love to do it, and like I'm happy it exists, but also it's like it's a different muscle, because it's often like when I go into rehearsal for a Shakespeare play, it's like my existence in this world is conceptual or something like that. Whereas when you get a play like Wanting To, like If Pretty Hurts, like Skeleton Crew, where it's like, no, it's not a concept. Like this is the actual like embodiment of the way someone moves through this world. Look at this human being and understand them and connect to them, and like empathize with them and see how their struggles relate to your struggles. See how their despair is like your despair. Like to be able to unify in that way is something that is such a gift when working on new work like this that is so personal and rooted.
One of the things that I think people keep forgetting, probably because of the programming that most theater companies do, and even like, you know, on film and television, when it comes to representation, people forget that people, you know, brown and black people also feel joy. And all they want to do is see people like us suffer. And I love that Wanting To obviously goes to the dark moments and the less happy moments, so to speak, but you don't forget the joy. And there are moments of like absolute bliss on that stage that I think are contagious to the people in the audience. Who like I wanted to get up and dance and like when during the bar scenes I wanted to go.
You
dance.
should have.
Yeah,
you should have got up and got your life.
I'll bring like a little vodka.
Yeah.
Next time. And can you talk about why this is so important for you to include in your plays, and what is it like for you also to be showing pain but also so much joy?
Yeah. Honestly, I was and still am tired of stories that surround HIV and AIDS, and it's always sad. Like I think about when my friends and I get together, my friends who are also HIV positive, like seldom do we talk about our status. And when we do, it's like not in a, oh, woe is me sort of conversation. Like we don't talk about that. Like if it is a like woe is me conversation, it's about, oh child, this rent is due. Am I going to be able to make it? It's never about like my status, my meds, anything like that. We have a good old time and we key and we enjoy each other. So I also wanted to show like that side. And number one in the play has a line of, he's so tired of seeing stories where people die from AIDS, and he would love a story where people are living with HIV, because that is the reality now, and wanted to be able to show that, wanted to be able to showcase that. And oftentimes I found myself thinking more and more of the Middle Passage, and I remember hearing that for our ancestors who were forced over here, who made that trek, the ones who were able to survive because they found pockets of joy. They found moments to laugh. As wild as that may sound, when they were taking this trek, this Middle Passage, the ones who were able to survive because they found moments to laugh. And when I think about the civil rights movement, so oftentimes we see photos of people protesting and holding signs. And quite honestly, that was about maybe an hour or 2 hours of what happened. And what we didn't see was the parties that they threw afterward. Because you also have to have joy, because that's really intense work. So how can I do this intense work and also preserve my joy, right? And so they would literally have parties after these protests to build up their joy, and using joy as resistance. And so that was really important for me, because I felt like I would have completely missed the mark if I made a play about HIV and AIDS, and it's completely sad. And I wouldn't feel comfortable putting that out there for my community.
And joy carries me through my life, honestly. And so it just feels like a gift to be able to do that on the stage, where it's like, it just reflects how I go through my life. Like, I mean, working on this play has been intense, but it's like, as much as we are intensely diving into the deeper, more heavy spaces, like, I leave rehearsal and I go dance. You know, like that's how I go take care of myself. And like that's like a part of my life. It's a part of, like, I fold it into just like the fabric of who I am.
And his music selection is on point. His music selection is on point, I have to say.
Yeah. So it's like, I mean, it's just like that it just reflects what life is like. And so I love that part.
Okay, why have you been playing then?
Oh. Okay. Well, honestly, I have this whole little project, but there's a playlist that I have that I always shuffle. I call it my battery pack, and it just has like 1,900 songs on it. So like it just shuffles, and it just is always on repeat.
And I would love for the two of you to talk a little bit about what I saw the night that I attended the show, and it's that I told you also that I found myself snapping and going like, girl, what? And I went and I said to myself, did you just do that? I have never done that in a theater. But I felt so comfortable, and I felt so in the moment. And I saw everyone around me was the same way. People were talking. I mean, no one was like yelling or anything, but people were talking. People felt like they were a part of it, and that's not something that's very common. Like, I mean, I'm still shocked that I snapped and I went.
I'm glad.
Yeah,
Me too.
Yeah,
it felt amazing.
Yes.
But so thank you for creating that space. And first of all, like, it's kind of like you're magicians. How do you create that space, and why do you think most theaters, for instance, don't create that space and we all feel like we're bound and we just have to sit there and witness and be quiet?
Oh my gosh, and that's so whack to me. Like, oh my gosh. Literally, the audience is that missing piece. Mm-hmm. We do not have theater if we do not have an audience. Mm-hmm. And written in the play itself, the audience is a character, where these three individuals reference the audience, talks to the audience on multiple occasions. So at the very top of the play, it's written in a way where there has to be a call and response. Mm-hmm. And if there's not, the play won't be able to happen, because we need you to help us know how this story is going to go. And I would hope that because of that, on top of so many other things like amazing actors who has so much charm, allows and creates a space for the audience to feel like they can be like, girl, why did you do that? Mm-hmm. Or like get up and want to dance when like a moment is happening. Because again, like we're in this thing together, right? Like we've done all of this work and it would all be for naught if we do not have the audience there as well.
It is literally my favorite thing when I'm on stage and I feel like the audience giving back to me. That's like, it just feeds me. Because also whenever I watch a show, like I'm an engaged, I can't help it. Like I'm just like an engaged audience member. It just like, I don't know, it just lands on me in a way that I kind of like respond. And I mean, it's sad to me when the audience comes and it feels like there's like a cinder block wall between us and them. It's just like, well, why are we in this room together? Like, if we can't share the space and like you let me know when something lands on you, just like that. It's like all a conversation. It's all an ongoing conversation. And like I have friends who will come because my friends are kind of like me and they're super engaged and they'll be like, I was the only one laughing at that line. I felt so bad. I was like, no, but I love that. Like, please, like keep doing it. Like I love that. Like be with us. Feel free to express yourself. Feel free to breathe. And like that's, I think, is it's like my favorite thing.
Theater is for all, because it's this idea that you have to present yourself a certain way in the theater. And I found myself laughing because I think about, this was a few years ago, a cousin of mine who will remain nameless. She was coming to one of my plays, and she has never been to the theater beforehand. And literally, she texted me a few days before coming to my show asking, hey, do I have to like wear a ball gown? No, you don't have to wear a ball. You can literally come dress however you want to come dress to the theater. But like, it's this, literally, it's funny, but it's also incredibly sad because it's this idea of you have to present yourself a certain way in the theater, which is not the case. I think about a friend of mine who is also a playwright, and I remember he said he wrote this play, and for this like one character, he wrote it with a friend in mind, and this friend of his is a very spiritual person, really believes in like call and response as it relates to the spirit, and so that found its way in one of the characters in my friend's play. And he said when the friend who he based that character off of came to see the show, he felt so uncomfortable where he couldn't engage in that way because so many other theater goers gave very much quiet, gave very much still. So he thought that's how I have to respond. And so just thinking about creating a space where everyone is welcomed and where you can feel the way that the spirit moves you to feel.
Thinking about representation, about the ways in which, the media and arts often deny people of color a chance to see themselves. When was the first time that you remember seeing yourself anywhere? Was it a television or a movie or on stage?
Growing up, my mom was always very on top of that. So like the movies that I watched growing up, the music that I heard growing up, anything, like we're always like, my mom was always very diligent. I don't even know if she knew she was doing it, but she was always like, here's you, like you can do anything. The thing that comes to mind when you said that is the movie The Wiz, which I love dearly. And I remember watching that movie and seeing just how much excellence, like, across the whole, like, from the music, the acting, the sets, the costumes, the way they looked, the way they sounded, the way they were with each other, the way they danced. Like, I remember watching that movie and being so excited and, like, being like, I want to do that. Like, get, like, how, like, take me to Oz. Like, how do I go?
Take
like,
me to Oz.
Yeah, so I remember that, and again, like, it's so important for me. Like, those are the moments where it's like I get a new sense of what's possible for me.
I think about, like, I can't pinpoint a specific moment, but, like, I do remember when I was younger seeing like images of, like, Black queer men, but at that time it always felt like a caricature and like a stereotype, which for me, like, I didn't quite understand, but I was just still excited to see, like, a Black queer person, like me, not sharing who I was to anybody, but, like, really hoping to be able to, like, see this, like, Black queer person, like, thinking about how if it was a show that had, like, queerness in it, making sure that, like, I had the station beforehand so I could hurry up and hit last. So if somebody walked in, I knew that I could go to something else.
Oh, that's so real.
But it was just how much I really wanted to see myself reflected, but also knowing that society taught me that I shouldn't, and that I have to make sure, like, no one knows what I'm doing. And, like, now that I think about it, the first time where I saw a real life individual was on The Real World. It was with Karamo, and being able to see, like, a Black queer man that didn't feel like a caricature, that just felt like he was just existing in who he was. I can't remember how old I was. I know I was, like, in my teens, but, like, that was, I think, the first time where I was able to, like, see what a version of myself could look like.
And it's the holidays, so I'm assuming that you've both been very good kids this year. And,
I hope.
Yeah. And so when you write your letter to Santa, and Santa's probably bringing you presents, what's on your letter to Santa this year for yourself, but also for the theater community?
Yes, Santa. Yes, question.
I answered the question for the theater. Just more plays that allow people to unguard, unbind, to show themselves, that invite people in to see that and that connect us. I don't see enough of that.
For you?
For me,
What
I would like to go somewhere warm.
Yes. Yes.
I would like to
Yes.
go somewhere warm.
Yes.
That's what I'd like.
Yes. I would take that answer. I would take that answer. I would also want to go somewhere warm. I love the warmth so much, too much actually. So that I would say in terms of the theater, I'm actually very excited with where theater is and where it's going in terms of being able to see multiple stories of individuals with very lived experiences. What I would love to see within the theater is administration being able to reflect what I see on stage. It's not enough to see these Black and brown bodies, these bodies of color, of very lived experiences on stage, and then the theater that's producing it looks completely white. That's what I would really love to see. I get very frustrated and I get very sad when I walk into a theater that's producing my work or that wants to have a conversation with me and everyone in the administration looks nothing like me. And the ones who do look like me are interns, are apprentices, are fellows that will be gone within 9 months to a year. And that's not what diversity or inclusion or equity looks like. So that's what I would really love to see if we're getting for real, for real.
So basically do better theater. Thank you both. Oh, and by the way, I wish also the Warm Place comes into your life soon, but not before January 12th.
Yes.
Before January 12th.
Or if it gets
January
extended.
12th.
So 1 and 2 is a production of the new group running at the Pershing Square Signature Theater through January 12th. Fingers crossed extensions might be happening or it's going to move it somewhere else.
We'll see
Fingers
what
crossed.
happens.
And Donja and Leland, thank you so much for
Thank you so
being
much.
pleasure.
Thank you.
Happy holidays.
Yes.
And remember, theater is more fun when you bring a friend or two.
Yes.
Yeah.
Bye.